Hey y'all, this is Gray Crawford, and I'm here to talk about the new moon in Leo on August 4th. This to me is one of the most dynamic and creative and exciting lunations of the year. Now, I know that's what all the lions in the audience would like to hear, but I have good reasons for it. To begin with, let's just think about what comes to mind when we consider the sign of Leo, the lion. It's a fire sign. And this brilliant fire is actually the home of the sun. The sun, that's the force of life that brings life to our world, that every morning when the sun rises, it brings a new day of creation. And we likewise can participate in that creation. There's something about the heart of the lion, the heart of the sun being the heart of our solar system, and the way that we can live from the heart, from a place of love, from a place of joyous creativity. This brilliance of Leo is even further accentuated because of it being a fixed sign. Being a fixed sign means that Leo is a sign that gets things done, that can make long-term plans and achieve those plans. It can take imaginal visions and with that fiery forge of the sun, forge it into manifested creation, beautiful forms of creation. And this new moon in Leo is a perfect lunation to set new intentions for what you want to create the rest of this year and even beyond, because this lunation is actually configured to much larger astrological cycles that will play out for the rest of this decade and even beyond. But before we get into all of that, let's just step back and think about some of the main aspects going on with this new moon in Leo. First of all, there's not any negative, harsh, difficult aspects with the moon or even involved in the configurations involving the moon. It's a very harmonious, positive, exciting, flowing lunation. The moon will be moving in between a sextile, which is a very harmonious, collaborative aspect, separating, moving away from Mars in Gemini, applying to Jupiter in Gemini. And so that Leo fiery new moon moving in between the airy, inspirational sign of Gemini, holding both Mars and Jupiter, gives us a very visionary, expansive, inspirational quality to this lunation. Venus is also in Leo at the time of the new moon, just about to move from Leo into Virgo. Now, that's important because that means Venus is very close to the degree of Regulus. Regulus is the heart of the lion. Regulus is a great celestial king or queen, a brilliant royal star, a star of grace, a star that brings honors, a star that empowers, helps us take command of our life and what we want to create from the center of our values and our creativity, a star that connects us with the fullness of our character. What are you here to do? What are you here to create? Venus is not only near Regulus, Venus within a week of the lunation is also freshly visible in the sky. About a week before the new moon, Venus will move 15 degrees beyond the sun, which means Venus is in a condition of heliacal rising. That means Venus has very recently appeared in the evening sky following sunset to finally become visible again. And so this new moon is also a celebration of the return of Venus to the sky following sunset. And furthermore, the next day after the new moon on August 5th, right when we get the very first waxing visible crescent light of this moon, that moon will be also forming a conjunction with Venus as well as Regulus. And so there's something about that central heart of the lion, that ability to empower us, to seek our goals, achieve our goals, um, contribute to what we want to see happen in the world, affect greater change in the world. We can find all of this involved with this new moon. Now, at the same time, the same day, at the same time that this new moon is forming, Mercury is in Virgo. Now, Mercury is incredibly strong in Virgo, but it's important to realize that Mercury is also stationing. So, this new moon has a lot of dynamic creativity and force behind it, but it's also exactly timed with Mercury stationing retrograde. Whenever Mercury stations retrograde, it's incredibly important to be especially mindful. Bring additional mindfulness to everything going on around you. Pay attention to your dreams. Pay attention to synchronicities, different signs and omens around you. And if you're listening to this video before the new moon, in that week leading up to August 4th in the new moon, as Mercury is approaching and it's stationing, it's even more important to pay attention. You know, if you need to get your car fixed, go take care of it. Anything that you're noticing already starting to become out of alignment or needing a repair, it's good to be ahead of that. Anything you know that in the weeks ahead you're going to need to be planning for, it's good to take care of that now before Mercury stations retrograde. But also keep in mind that Mercury retrograde can be one of the most overhyped aspects in all of astrology to me. There's definitely challenges and difficulties that come with Mercury retrograde, but it's actually not true that you can't make progress on things you're working on. And in fact, if you have something to do like writing or research, this Mercury retrograde can actually be incredibly powerful because basically Mercury, when it goes retrograde, is taking on this much more intensified presence. And so as Mercury is very powerful and becoming very intensified, it can bring difficulties. But if you can keep awareness, shift and move and be flexible as needed, if things start not going the way you're expecting, you know, just pay attention to that process that's unfolding and stay with it, because by the end of the retrograde of Mercury, you'll be able to figure that out more and what the deeper meaning is. And typically, whatever starts going haywire during Mercury retrograde, by the time we get to the end of it and Mercury's moving forward again, you've discovered more of a reason for why you need to go back and work on that or whatever it is. So the other thing about this new moon that's so important, that's connected to these much larger astrological cycles, is that as this new moon on August 4th waxes to the full moon in Aquarius, that's going to happen on August 19th, at the exact same time, Jupiter and Saturn will be coming into an exact square aspect. This waxing square aspect between Jupiter and Saturn is incredibly significant because it's the first hard aspect between Jupiter and Saturn since their conjunction at the end of 2020 at the very beginning of Aquarius. That Jupiter-Saturn conjunction in Aquarius at the end of 2020 was important, as it always is, because these are 20-year cycles that are always very important in the world and our personal lives, really announcing big overarching, 20-year cycles of storylines that open up. But this particular conjunction was even more important because it brought us fully into this new age of air, and Jupiter and Saturn only forming conjunctions in tropical air signs from now all the way until 2159. And this goes with how the whole world has changed so dramatically and so quickly since 2020. And we can all feel how we are in this new era and this new age that is starting to take shape. And so this lunation is not happening at the exact time that Jupiter and Saturn are forming the exact square aspect, but it does happen as they are coming closer together. And by the time they get to the full moon, they will actually be forming that aspect. At the same time, Mars and Jupiter are coming together. And before we get to that full moon, Mars and Jupiter will come together into a conjunction. Mars will then also form a square aspect with Saturn. And by the time we get to that full moon, Venus in Virgo will also be involved in this mix. And so we'll have this very powerful alignment between Venus and Virgo, opposite Saturn and Pisces, with Mars and Jupiter and Gemini kind of in the middle of them, forming a square to both of them. This is an incredibly powerful configuration that's going to go with huge changes in collective current event storylines. We can already feel how that's taking shape right now. And in our personal lives, it's another important major turning point. There's a much This is an aspect that connects with a much, much larger storyline that will be playing out in the years ahead. But you may already be feeling in your life how you're at this point of critical change. And so this new moon in Leo is very important in terms of finding that center, going within your heart, connecting with your integrity, your values, that place of love inside you, inside your heart, connecting more fully with what you most truly desire to create with your life and with your work, and really setting an intention for that. Keeping in mind again that as this lunation cycle unfolds, there are going to be huge events happening in current events. And at the same time, with Mercury retrograde, there's going to be some sort of internal process unfolding. So while it's a very important time to set intention, you may not find that things starting right around this new moon are fully coming out and into um, their final form. There may be some things that need to be worked out, but this Mercury retrograde that we're going to be going through is also going to be incredibly important as part of a process of getting more focused and clear about what you really want your role to be in the years ahead and all the great collective change we'll be going through. And in fact, just before we get to that full moon on August 19th, on the day before, Mercury will be retrograde in Leo in the heart of the sun. This is a time where Mercury is in that heart of the sun in Leo, received by the sun into the home of the sun in Leo. And it will be an incredibly powerful time just as the full moon is starting to come into effect to again go very deep into your heart and into that place of what you truly want to create with your life. And let that full moon illuminate it for you. And so invite you at this new moon and as it continues to wax into fullness to connect with your heart and what you truly wish to create with your life and the roles you're most passionately excited about performing as we continue to move through all these great collective changes in the years ahead.